What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. The horror continues yet again as we dive into another creepypasta centered around demons possessing the Imperial Guard. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. It had been the moment Zachaka's ultimate triumph when the demon would finally breach the veil, separating the warp from reality. He had planned for this, for when chaos would assault the imperial world of Tychon, and now that the time had finally come, the world was on the edge of being dragged into the warp. It would be the first and possibly last chance for Zachaka to claim a mortal shell for himself. With the barrier between dimensions so thin, Zachaka had slipped through easily, finding purchase in the mind of a latent psyker, one of the guardsmen defending this planet. The human had been easy prey. Zachaka had devoured the man's soul without resistance. But what the demon had not expected was to discover an intruder, another demon already possessing the body he had coveted. In the gaping absence of the psyker's mind, he had felt them like a watery slime, slick behind his newfound eye, and a pestilent taste on his tongue. It held the taint of any Zechian demon's greatest enemy, Grandfather Nurgle. Around Zachaka, the battle still raged. Guardsmen pressed close, firing wildly into oncoming demons that had been clambering over sandbags, as the Imperial Sergeant shouted out orders. The warp ripped around them, above the panicked screams of the dying. Zachaka knew he had been lucky to possess this psyker, and still he carried his weapon, a lasgun, which was now loose in the fingers that had forgotten how to fire it. The other demons shifted within their shared body, bumbling at the edges that joined their awareness, like thick fingers crawling on skin, leaving cysts and bloated flesh in their wake. Zachaka recoiled. "This body is mine," he gritted through rotten teeth, throwing the weight of his psychic might behind his words, willing to expel his rival. The Nurgle-esque demon's reply was wet and amused, echoing in the space where their consciousness touched. "My name is Blagor, childling of the Changer," he said, "and it is you who has intruded." Pustules burst, hidden under the flak armor, pushing Zachaka out. He fought back with his own wave of mutations, growing pinions and rippling flesh, staking his claim. Their joint body convulsed as they fought, and Zachaka's fingers twitched, setting off the lasgun suddenly. The blast hit an ambitious Nurgling which had climbed over the sandbag barricade, dissolving it into nothingness. At Blagalor's gurgle of disappointment, an uncontrollable giggle escaped the Zechian demon. "You pox-ridden maggot," he screeched, but lurching forward in unsteady feet he could not control. A hand grabbed his shoulder, and a nearby guardsman held him steady. "Don't give up, Darien," he said. "Have hope and faith in the God Emperor. They haven't taken us yet." Zachaka almost cackled again. The Imperial Sergeant cried, "Keep your hearts pure and your faith unrelenting. The archenemy will worm beneath your skin and clutch at your fear. Trust in your fellow man and do not despair." He raised his last pistol high as the warp crackled around him, as though the sky would break in. "Keep firing," he shouted. "This is for the Emperor." Blagalor babbled in the joint nerves, sodden and unintelligible, and Zachaka's control over his fingers left again. More demons were breaching the barricades, but the sergeant's proclamation had rallied the Imperial forces, and they were fighting back in earnest now. Multiple lasgun shots rang past Zachaka, and he realized he could lose his human frame quickly if the battle went awry. The two demons could not coexist and remain unchanged. One would triumph over the other eventually, or both would transform into something new. No, the thought was repulsive. Zachaka needed to ensure the success of the demonic assault on Tychon and keep his body intact, while also expelling Blagalor. But how? Zachaka could feel the threads of hope that tied the guardsmen together, wound into a central point, the Imperial Sergeant. I must kill him, and the resistance would unravel. If he could raise his lasgun enough to line up a shot, Zachaka could single-handedly win this section of the incursion and save his own skin. The next step would be banishing Blalagor, but that could come later. The next part of his plans always did. First, he needed to control his fingers, so Zachaka tried another tactic. The longer this battle goes on, the greater chance we'll both lose, he said, pushing his intent into the space that Blalagor held. Help me take out the leader, or would you rather stagnate in here? The guardsman gave him an alarmed look. An interesting plan, Blalagor replied. I agree. The other demon's opposition withdrew, and their awareness joined. For one blessed, unholy moment, Zachaka knew what it would be like to exist in a mortal shell without restraint, without the unwelcome presence of another. He raised his lasgun at the sergeant, his mouth spreading a far too wide grin. Darian, what are you doing? And he fired. His last bolt found its mark. The sergeant collapsed, the blast taking off half of his face. The chaos was immediate. Shouts of panic rang as the firing line devolved, abandoning hope, with most guardsmen fleeing. Demons of all kinds poured over the barricades, slaughtering those who remained, and Zachaka felt the world lurch closer to the warp. The guardswoman beside him was rooted to the spot, her hand still on his shoulder. He turned to face her and relished the drawing horror in her expression. The too late realization, as Blalagor's virulent mutation spread to her, then the birth of despair. One of the few remaining guardsmen yelled, "We need to keep them out." Zachaka cackled in response as his body warped, talons growing from the bones of his fingers. His lasgun dropped, clattering to the ground. He wondered if he and Blalagor had already changed in their brief acquiescence. He roused Blalagor from his stupor, and perhaps the grandfather's pestilence was just another kind of change. Keep them out, the voice cried again. Zachaka grinned again and said, It's too late for that now. We are already here. And with that being said, guys, that was another short story entitled Possession that, even though it's fan-made, it's interesting to see how two demons can kind of coexist in a body and also kind of fight for control of the human here. Very interesting take. Let me know your thoughts down below, and also if you guys have any other short stories, either official or fan-made, let me know in the comments below, and I might get to them before we get to the end of this horror-themed month. So without further ado, guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, I've been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.